Coming up on this edition of the Booth Review, Logan, Jayden is the man.
He is indeed him. And then we get after those Eagles fans that were in the comments of our post-game shows and set them straight, right, Bram?
Yeah, good luck catching up to all of them around the world who just can't believe what they saw. I'm going to sit in for London, too, and hand out the championship belt to guess who. That's coming up on the Booth Review. Welcome into the Christmas edition of the Booth Review podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein with Logan Paulson. We're brought to you by Microsoft Surface, powering a better game. Logan, boy, Santa came early this year. What a comeback. That was unbelievable.
Yeah, unbelievable. I would say unbelievable, but every single week, every single game, this team does stuff that's unbelievable. So, like it was funny. I think we were on the broadcast and it was like they had 1 minute and 51 seconds left. They had the return. It was like, it felt like a lifetime. It felt like it was totally within reach. And I think that was probably the most believable moment of the whole game. I think the thing that really stuck out to me as unbelievable was the 5 turnovers, really 6 if you count the failed 4th down conversion early in the game there. And for them to overcome that and beat a really good football team is just incredibly impressive.
Like I want to start with the headline, which is Jayden. I mean, I think it's impossible to just overlook his play. And obviously it's a team win. And I don't want to take away from what all the other people did here. But we were even in the middle of the broadcast. And I think the first real moment of it was the 4th and 11 run, where he just made a play and made 5 guys miss. And it wasn't a design draw. He just made a play, kept the drive alive. They're still down 2 scores at this point when it happened. And I think we were laughing on the broadcast going, yeah, the playbook is tell Superman to put his cape on. And we had I'm out of adjectives for this because I keep forgetting he's a rookie. He doesn't act like one. He acts not just like the rookie of the year, but a top 5 quarterback in the NFL right now. And I don't think that's an overstatement.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing about this game that was so hard, and upon the rewatch that I did last night, was like he didn't play technically as well as he did in the New Orleans game. Like the eyes, the feet wasn't all there, tight window throws, completion percentage was down, all those types of things. But I think what you're kind of alluding to there is the thing that's just incredibly hard to quantify, which is the playmaking ability, right? You get the completion to Diami backed up in your own ends, and you get the completion to Terry for the touchdown. It's 14-12. And then you talked about that sequence where he converts a 4th and 4. He converts a 4th and 11, which is just unbelievable. And then, kind of breaking the pocket, getting that play to OZ, the red zone efficiencies that the team saw in the game. And it really was like him driving the offense. And so it was really hard for me analytically to kind of digest, because it's one of those things where you're saying he's doing a lot of things that are, maybe less than ideal. He missed this throw or he didn't hit this throw, but then you weigh that against just this pure playmaking prowess, and you kind of say that's something that's really special. Like put the game on his shoulders, go win it, and led to like a really special result.
I'll let you nitpick all you want. Tell the Truth Monday for me is this: very few people can do the things he did, and he's doing it regularly. And it's gotten to the point now where it's validated not only his draft position, but as you know, having played here, and I've lived this, we've waited for this person to show up here for a long time. And I hope that this is the beginning of a long ride with him. But the early returns in a December game against an arch rival who might be the best team in the NFL, and we'll get to their excuses later because I don't even really want to hear it. But like in a December game where literally everything's up against you and you are almost mathematically excluded from scoring the amount of points that they scored based on all the turnovers and how many times you're actually going to touch the ball and have an opportunity to do what he did. That was amazing. And there are very, very, very few players that come along that do amazing in this league. So I'm just kind of stuck on, and maybe it's not looking at it in most cases the way that you would look at it. In this case, I'm just kind of in awe of it because it really was just a remarkable performance by him yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, don't get it twisted. Like, I'm in awe. It's just different. It's just different than what, when you watch Tom Brady, watch Peyton Manning, watch Drew Brees. Like, there is an efficiency and a methodical nature to that kind of quarterbacking. And then when you have a guy like this who can just straight ball. Like he can do the methodical stuff, but he can also ball. Like that's the thing that it's hard to kind of explain to somebody. It's like when you look at like the numbers, you're like, oh, this is like pretty good performance. 2 interceptions, 5. Obviously that's incredible, but it's the ability to just elevate the offense through kind of just, I don't know, like sheer athleticism, sheer talent, sheer will. And again, like there's a lot of other factors at play here. I thought the offensive line pass protected much better than they did in this game than they did in the second game, which led to some opportunities down the field, helped with some of the red zone opportunities. The defense figured it out in the second half, allowing the offense to gain more possessions and Jayden to do his thing in terms of maximizing scoring touchdowns. I think you also look at Cliff and the play design for the red zone specifically. I mean, they were outstanding in terms of breaking kind of these match coverages that Philly likes to play. So there was a lot of things that went into it, but ultimately, like I think to your point, like Jayden's the driver, and it's in a game where you're kind of saying like this is the biggest test for him of the year because this is the best defense of the that they're going to play, and it's a division rival. It's a big moment. It was really impressive that he was able to get it done. And again, the Eagles helped him out with penalties, and Jalen Hurts, being out. They had some people get kicked out of the game. Obviously, defensively, Charlie Gardner-Johnson, but you got to win the game. And when the whole deck was stacked against him, he found a way to get it done.
Yeah. I think what's even more telling too, so throughout the year, they've had to answer a lot of questions. And one of the big ones from the start was who's number 2, like outside of Terry McLaurin, and Noah Brown kind of emerged as that person, at least in targets, catches, impact in the game. He became a number 2. They had described this as by committee. Noah Brown gets hurt. And for a couple of weeks, the big question was who's number 2 here? And the whole by committee thing has stood out to me. And I think yesterday more exemplified like this idea of this team is so together that 2 players who hadn't scored a touchdown the entire season rarely were targeted. Crowder barely played for most of the season because he was on IR. Both scored 2 touchdowns. Crowder is the player who's trusted on the last play of the game because it's the play that they over and over talked about repping in practice. They trusted to put the ball to somebody who had played 3-4 games the entire season. Olamide Zaccheaus is in the locker room telling us after the game, on the 49-yard touchdown that was the busted coverage where they got a free play, whether they knew or didn't know that they had a free play at the time. Like, he didn't run the route he was actually supposed to run. He just had a connection with Jayden, who saw this breakdown. And this isn't Terry McLaurin, the person you would think of they're going to go to first, or Zach Ertz, the person you'd think they'd go to second. Here they are in critical clutch moments, and it's these secondary players that he's finding. I think it's another very telling aspect about where Jayden is in his development, where the offense is, and the buy-in of the entire group out there.
Yeah, but I think you also got to give a lot of credit. I think you are. You're giving credit to, Jamison Crowder and OZ. And the reason you got to give credit to those guys is they're pros, man. I think they have experience. I think I said this on one of the post-game shows yesterday. Like, when you that touchdown to Jamison Crowder at the end of the game, I'm not sure you get that same result if a veteran player is not in that position. And I think people forget that because they haven't played a lot, because they're kind of rotational guys, they have a lot of experience, and that experience is tremendously valuable. And I think when a quarterback understands and sees it the same way as the receiver, it leads to these special plays. And, I know OZ didn't run the route as called, but it takes a veteran to understand, hey, they've busted their coverage. I'm dropped. I'm going to be open. Let's hope the quarterback can find me. And again, that's a tremendous play by Jayden to kind of elevate that and find that opportunity. It also speaks to the unquantifiable element of those 2 players specifically, and the fact that they have this ability to, because of their experience, to elevate offensive production and be where they're supposed to be and attack coverages in the right way. And I think that's just really special. So again, they deserve their flowers as much as anybody, because that's really challenging to do. It's challenging to come in off the bench and do that stuff and stay locked in and make those plays. But you see their experience and the value of it in those moments.
Yeah. Let me ask you just in general, from the first time that they played them to the second time, obviously the effectiveness of the pass offense was wildly different from the first meeting to the second one. A lot of this came in the second half, and a lot of it also came after most of the turnovers had occurred. So take me through what you saw about why they were more effective being able to throw the ball against Philadelphia, who's got the number 1 defense in the league.
Yeah, so I think when you look at the first half specifically, you see a lot of kind of bubble screens, a lot of screens and kind of RPO or pre-snap with pre-snap run decisions, runner pass decisions, not true RPOs based on leverages, and that was kind of a big driver in the first half. Obviously, the turnover is a big element because it gives you a short field. In the red zone, I thought Cliff kind of exemplified some elements that really showed an evolution from the first matchup to now, like just the kind of concepts they were running, the way it's designed to attack the match coverages, the way it's designed to attack rules and kind of play with defensive back eyes. I thought that was excellent. But in the second half, I think that, again, the number one driver to me was something that happened in the first half with those 2 long completions to Diami and Terry. Like, that is the thing that changes it, because one of the things about that defense, and you can see it in how they play their coverage, is they're kind of relying on the rush to get home, and they're kind of playing in between coverage responsibilities. So once you can beat them vertically and get over the top, they have to stop it up. So all of a sudden, all the stuff that makes you excellent, and I'm talking about Jayden Daniels now, that makes this offense excellent in terms of the quick underneath decision making, now becomes extremely prevalent. And I thought they ran a couple, especially in the 2-minute drive, like a spot. They ran a stick, again, quick game, 3-step, get the ball out. And early in the first matchup, that was just not a viable solution because of how tight they were playing their coverage. Now, a little softer, a little bit looser, more opportunities there for sure. And again, I think there were little tweaks, like they were trying to run a lot of like corner with a flat underneath and an outside release go to again manipulate the match defense, and they were doing a great job matching. And then all of a sudden, Zach Ertz gets a catch where he literally just stops on the same concept and catches the ball right over the middle of the field. And so I think in game they made some nice adjustments. I thought Jayden was really aggressive. I know people didn't like this throw, but I really like the mindset that it shows. And what I mean by that is there's a 3rd and 11 right before the 4th and 11 scramble where he kind of forces the ball to Terry on a dig. And that's the type of throw versus this defense you need to make. And that's the type of energy you need to make that throw. And so I thought there was just a shift. Again, play a little softer coverages. Some of the quick game was more open. But Jayden was much more aggressive. And then the other element is like, you can't account, we talked about this already, for his playmaking ability. Like, that is something that is, again, like when we talked about comparing this to New Orleans, like it's different, but the pure playmaking magnitude in this game was on full display. And I think that, again, is as much as you want to get technical about, oh, they did this in the first half, this in the second half, like Jayden was just a baller. And that's something that you can't quantify, really.
Yeah, this is 2 weeks in a row that they've come out with really unusual wins, close wins. One where, in my opinion, they should have won by a lot more in New Orleans, that had they hit any of the 3 open plays that they had with Terry McLaurin down the field, I'm not sure that game was ever close. They got a number of penalties that kept New Orleans in it, and suddenly it looked a lot closer than I think it was. And if you kind of rewatch and go through it, you'll see all these opportunities, red zone breakdowns, the misses on the big plays that were open in there, that really read like that score should have never been that way. And then you get to this week against a Super Bowl contender, and you could not have had more mistakes that go against you, and somehow they win anyway. And I can't kind of wait to look back at this to see how this happened, because for me, this one is hard to believe. Statistically, overcoming -4 in the turnover margin against anybody it's got to be in the single-digit percentage of games that are won by teams that do that, let alone against a team that's 12-2. And legitimately 12-2 and haven't lost in 2.5 months. So these 2 weeks are so telling in very different ways about the makeup of this team, to be able to overcome so many mistakes against a really good team and win, and to somehow get by, even though the score should have been very different in a road game. This 2-week period just tells me everything that I need to know about the makeup and will and desire of the Dan Quinn team. And maybe that's the Dan Quinn part of this whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. These are great wins, great in different ways, honestly. But I think to your point, the kind of stick-to-itiveness. And again, like when you say, how does it happen? Like obviously the Philadelphia Eagles go 3 for 16 on 3rd down. They're not possessing the football the way they need to possess the football. And they're not taking advantage of those extra possessions the way they need to take advantage of those extra possessions. Obviously, Dan Quinn steals 2 possessions with the 4th and 4 and the 4th and 14, or Jayden Daniels steals those possessions. You're able to capitalize, score 2 touchdowns. And then, they have the drop pass at the end of the game, which again kind of falls into that third down narrative where they're not able to possess the football and win the football game. And so obviously they turned the football over a lot, the Washington Commanders in this Philadelphia Eagles game. But the thing that I think sticks out to me is that Philly wasn't able to do anything with it. I mean, in the second half, they had like 33 yards of total offense. And obviously some of that's inflated or some of that's misleading because they had a lot of penalty yardage as well. But I think that's something that I look at and I say, like, Philly left the door open in this game. And to your point, obviously it takes a special group of people, special group of competitors, special leadership to make sure that you stay with it. I mean, it's 21-7 in the first quarter. And like how many times, like I was talking to Santana, he's like, man, I almost stopped watching the game. And you've, I'm sure, been a part of games like that. I've covered games like that where it's just not a thing. It's like the team has no ability or resiliency to come back. And again, to the main point of the discussion here is like, that was not the case here. They stuck with it. They fought it out. They played physical on teams. They played great defense in the second half, stopping the run. They did a lot of really good things. Were able to manufacture a turnover. So it was really cool to see that level of belief. And again, is that a Dan Quinn thing? Is that a Jayden Daniels thing? I don't know, but it's definitely something that they've built here over the last couple months of the season.
I mean, like Dan Quinn said this after the game. I felt this way too. The first quarter took a long time to get through with all the stoppages of play, with all the turnovers, the touchdowns. We had a lot of breaks that were occurring, and it was 21-7. I remember looking up at the clock in the second quarter. It was like 7.5 minutes, something like that. And I said on the air to you in London, I go, there's a lot of time left here. And there's something about this team that made me blurt that out. I don't think I would have said that in years past. One, because of the way the quarterback plays. 2, because of his penchant to come back and not let anything get him down. He smiles through all of it, cool, calm, collected. He's as clutch as I've ever seen, especially for someone at his experience level here in the NFL. I mean, you just don't see this very often. And then this team, like, they're doing this. The ones that got me, that I was concerned, like, it's just not going to happen, the unlucky Daron Payne face mask that gave Philadelphia a first down on a 3rd and 16 when they were just running the ball. They were running to set up a punt. They weren't trying to get the first down. That was a really bad break. The late interception was a really bad break. And those were the ones where I was like, okay, now the clock's working against us here. But I remember even early, I had this feeling like this team's not out of it if they can just stay with it.
Yeah, but I think, like, as again, you were there live and living in color, like, both of those required a lot of stick-to-itiveness to overcome. And I think that's the thing is, in years past, that would be the straw that breaks the camel's back. That would be the thing that pushes them over the top and say, oh, we can't handle this anymore, right? And I think, again, like, when he threw the pick, I was like, defense needs to stop. And how many times in years past have we not seen that? And I could feel like you guys on the call, you and Fletch on the call, being like almost in disbelief when Devontae Smith drops that pass. And that's the thing. And it's so funny because they kicked the field goal, they're down by 5. And I remember we were talking and it's like, oh, they have 150 left, one timeout. Like, that's plenty of time. That's plenty of time for this team. And then they have this ridiculous penalty on the kickoff, right? And give you some life. And I think that's an element of this team. And you've talked about it. We've hit it a couple times now. It's different. And I've played for teams where you believe in the quarterback, and that belief in the quarterback makes you play better on defense. It makes you better on offense. It makes you block a little bit better because you've got that guy. You've got your Peyton Manning, you got your Tom Brady back there that's saying, hey, like, we can get this done. We're never out of a game, And I think that's, again, something that makes him exceptional. And is it Dan Quinn, is it Jayden Daniels? But I think when Dan in his post-game presser was like, we practiced it a lot. I've practiced this a lot other places, but you need a guy to execute it. He's tipping his hat to how special Jayden Daniels is and the belief that he gives the rest of the guys, I think, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. Let me ask you about a couple things that I'm wondering about. This is 2 weeks running now. They've won. Penalties, turnovers are a big part of the story. Also a lack of a consistent run game. This has been a top 5 rush offense. Take away the scrambles and the amazing plays by Jayden. Let's go to traditional run plays here, whether it's with Jayden scripted or more with B-Rob and others, Jeremy McNichols, Chris Rodriguez, whoever it may be. It's not happening right now. And I know that's a really good defense that they played on Sunday. What are you seeing with the run game, and can they turn that back around as the season progresses here?
I mean, that's something we talked about in the pregame show yesterday, was just how good this Philadelphia defense is. And it's not only is their defensive line good, their linebackers are good. They're fast with the football. Their safeties fit physically downhill. They've got corners that can tackle. Like, they're fast, man. You watch that Pittsburgh game, and you just see a group of guys that are possessed to get to the football at the fastest, most urgent level you can possibly be. So I knew running the football was going to be tough because of the way specifically those linebackers get downhill and fit runs, and how disruptive Jalen Carter is, Milton Williams, and Jordan Davis. Those guys are tough to deal with. And so this is going to be challenging. And one of the things that sticks out to me is they weren't able to commit to the run as much as they wanted to, I don't think, because of game flow. And two, also stylistically, I don't think they were able to get to the volume of runs that they normally do to make them successful. So, for example, we saw a little bit of quarterback trap. We saw a little bit of wham with Bates. And those runs were a little bit more successful. There was a little bit more air. And if you can come back to those and hit those multiple times in the game, all of a sudden, the efficiency of the quarterback runs, the efficiency of the running back runs are much greater because you found a little wrinkle that's giving you a schematic edge. And again, because of the game flow, because of the score, because of the time that Philadelphia was able to possess the football, specifically in the third quarter, I think there needed to be more urgency. And when you're in those situations, you got to throw the football, right? Because you got to score points. So I think in this game, again, we knew it was going to be tough. I think game flow dictated that it was going to be challenging. So I think those are all factors that limit the effectiveness of this team running the football. But I am really excited to watch them versus Atlanta. And I think they can get back on track versus that defense, which is a very talented, very diverse defense, but it feels like a game for them to get back on track.
And also, this was by far and probably not close, Brian Robinson, one of his worst games. And I know him. Like, he's a carryover. So he's been here for a few years. I know he's going to internalize this. I can't wait to see him next week, because I have a feeling you're going to see somebody who feels like he owes the team one from a week ago. And I can't wait to see what he puts on the field against Atlanta Sunday night as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's been a special talent this year, really. The physicality, the vision, the competitiveness. And like you alluded to that there, like Tana mentioned it in one of the shows we recorded today, like just how dejected and how disappointed he was in his performance. And guys like that are fun to play with because they are eager to get back to practice. They're eager to get back to work. And I definitely think B-Rob fits that mold.
All right. You noticed... well, it's hard to not notice the Philly outrage and excuse making that's been occurring. So should we go full sports radio here? Do you want to run through the litany of Philly excuses?
Yeah, I think we should. I think we should go full
yesterday?
sports radio. I'm excited to get you to do something fun here today. So the segment is, and I love skits and bits, Bram. You know that. I don't know. You don't love them as much as I do, but I love them, skits and bits. We're going to go cry, Eagles cry, or okay, you got a point there. And I'm curious to see what you got to say about some of these. So these comments are from real Eagles fans in our post-game live chat. And, you know, Philadelphia fans are kind of trolls. They get out there and they like to be all over the place. And so these are some things that I'd like to throw to you as a Philadelphia Eagles fan. So the refs robbed us. False start on the last Washington TD. We were robbed. What do you say to that Philly fan? What do you say?
So, what do I say?
What do you say, Bram?
What do I say? What do I say? Let's see. I think I've gone at least 3 to 4 years asking every coach how they get away with this on every single play that they run. So Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata, they invented this. Sorry, guys. Oh, I'm so sorry that you realize that you've been cheating for 5 years now. And another team does it. And that's a false start. Okay, pal. Yeah. Okay.
Lane Johnson's a saint. He did invent that, though. Real talk, like football, like he's the guy that he's the guy that gets that started, man. And say what you want, specifically in 2-minute drives, like that's how tackles set. Watch any 2-minute drive in the NFL, you're going to get that, right? And I think Eagles fans.
I've been screaming about this for years. I think that's a false start too, but the referees of the competition committee don't think it is, and you idiots invented it, so that's your problem now.
All right. Okay. So next thing. You only won because Kenny Pickett was in and not Hurts. Kenny Pickett's terrible. Hurts is amazing. He's a god.
One, I don't think Kenny Pickett was that bad, number one. Two, and this is more important, what position on defense does Jalen Hurts play? Because I don't remember him playing any position on defense or your number one rated defense getting 5, but really 6 turnovers and giving up 36 points anyway. So sorry, that one also doesn't fly. And also on the backup quarterback thing, guys, you won the NFC Championship against a 49ers team that had to run the wishbone because they ran out of quarterbacks. And I don't know how many backup quarterbacks we've thrown out there, and you haven't given our wins back. Remember when Garrett Gilbert had to play because our whole team had COVID? Oh, I bet you weren't. Were you taking credit for that win? Were you? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, is Kenny Pickett as good as Jalen Hurts? Probably not.
No.
But this is part of the deal. Like, you have a quarterback that runs a lot. He's going to get nicked. Like, he got nicked in our first game a little bit. You remember that, Bram? When we covered that game, he was out for plays. Like, it's part of the price you pay. And so, as much as Philly fans want to be salty about this, like, this is part of the deal. You know,
if Kenny Pickett played really poorly, I would hear that as an excuse. I don't think he did. Like, I don't think he played really poorly. So I'm like, we're the ones that turned the ball over 5 times. What are you all complaining about?
It is true. It is true. All right. We beat ourselves. Washington is they're frauds. They're terrible. That seemed a little harsh, that one.
10-5. That's, listen, the record is what you are, so we're not frauds. That's number one. But beat themselves. I'll hear some of that out, actually. At least that's a complaint about yourself. And Nick Sirianni after the game called them sloppy. And I actually thought that was a really good word for it. They had problems with substitution patterns. They had too many people on the field for one of the touchdowns. They had not enough people on for another one. How many 15-yard penalties did they get? They were unhinged. Like, and everything I read about them in the media is they are unhinged at all times, and it manifested itself. Again, you guys got 6 turnovers and couldn't win the game. I mean, come on. And you had to get unhinged to allow us to even get back into it. So actually, that is you're about right. You did blow it. Finally, you've gotten to the truth of the whole thing.
Yeah. If you're a crazy Eagles fan, like, you did beat yourselves. Good for you. That's why you play the games, guys. All right. So that I don't know if the Philly fans are going to hear this, but they should feel better maybe about Bram's great insight. And I think now we're going to what is this? Big Bram's heavyweight contender championship belt. So I've never done this before. I've got the belt right here.
You love the bits. Holy cow, do you love them? Oh, man.
Well, this is a big belt, man.
Yeah.
Big Flet, does he wear this belt? And so you got to kind of walk me through the thing here. Am I supposed to introduce these? Are you introducing them? Like, what's going on, Bram?
We can do whatever you like. Voice. So basically, you want me to go full Michael Buffer? So
yeah, I do. I want to see it. I want to see your best.
He actually comes at you. I can't do that. He will if you do his famous line, he will sue you.
Don't do that. But I'm saying, do like a caricature.
Let's get ready to football. Let's see. Last week's winner was Jayden Daniels off of his amazing performance in New Orleans. So he is the title. He's the title holder, and we had to pick somebody to go up against him, even though it's quite obvious who should probably win the thing again. So I went with Jamison Crowder because hey, the guy's been on IR all year. He makes a game-winning touchdown catch with 6 seconds left in the game. That's amazing. He had 2 touchdown catches. He's played a big role in keeping this offense moving here over the last couple of weeks. He had a couple of big plays in New Orleans as well. So listen, he was punching up in weight class to have any shot at this thing. And let's just end the nonsense and give the belt back to Jayden Daniels, who today is being called by any pundit anywhere except in Philadelphia the greatest quarterback of all time. So Jayden Daniels remains our Big Bram / Fletch championship belt holder. Congratulations.
I thought you'd go like in the red corner, Jayden Daniels, our returning champion, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, weighing it at whatever the thing is. You didn't do that, though. You kind of just did your normal analyst thing.
So I'm sorry to disappoint you. Secondly, this isn't live, and Jason can edit that part in if he likes, because I like it better. So your instincts are better than mine with the bits, Logan.
Skits and bits, baby. I do think that this was a tough one.
No,
to
it's
kind
not.
of go against the champ in this one. Jayden Daniels absolutely balled out. I'm surprised that Frankie Louva didn't get any love. Like, with the interception, a couple sacks, a couple TFLs. Obviously, OZ, a little bit more productive. Terry had a big game. And why did you settle on Jamison Crowder as the challenger?
Well, you make a winning touchdown catch with 6 seconds to go. It's hard to overlook that one. So he just listened. The other people he chose were really good options that weren't going to win. So we could give honorable mentions to all of them if you like.
Okay. All right. Mike Tyson. Jayden Daniels is Mike Tyson back in the 90s. You were alive for that, right, Bram?
Yes, I was alive for that. When Mike Tyson was great and not doing stunts against Jake Paul. Yes. All the younger generation think he's some has-been that was like a joke, and it's really sad, actually. Really sad.
It is sad. But this is Jayden Daniels when Mike Tyson was a beast, because this is like just an unprecedented performance by this guy. We gushed over him at the beginning of the show, and really, like, we should just give him this belt when the season's over. Maybe you can get him on the show and you can have Fletch give him the belt. That'd be pretty cool.
We should do that. Yes, we should do that. I agree with you. All right, real quick, though, before we go. We basically have a playoff game this weekend. For the Falcons, they have a shot to win their division, but they're going to be in big trouble if they lose. And for Washington, it's a win and in scenario. They can knock them out, not entirely, but they can essentially knock them out, depending on the Buccaneers' result that weekend. And Washington could punch a ticket to get into the playoffs. So we have a playoff game Sunday night. I don't know how much you've seen of the Falcons yet, but what's your early take on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're really talented on offense. They got a lot of playmakers that are really scary. Their offensive line is I think more consistent, one of the more consistent groups in the NFL, maybe top 10 in the NFL. And then defensively, they do a lot of kind of, I'm going to say exotic stuff. They do a lot of stuff. And I think that can be challenging for a young quarterback to kind of manage all those things. But I will say, because they seem to have a lot of play volume in and a lot of rules in, there are a lot of coverage busts. However, guys like Jesse Bates, they turn the football over a lot. So I do think this is like, it feels like a very evenly matched game if Penix comes out and plays well. And I that's something that there's just not enough data points on him at the moment.
I believe anything now, London. London.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the belt. It's the belt that threw you off.
Honestly, after a Hail Mary and yesterday, what's the point of preparing for these games anymore? I mean, like, the reality is anything could happen. And it's like we talk for all these hours about all these things that are going to be important. And then this guy does that stuff. And it's like, what's the point? Why are we even bothering?
I mean, I will say, to your credit, you do a ton of research, and to my credit, like we said that one of the important things was going to be finding explosive plays against this defense, the Philly defense, and they did that. So I know that's not great, nuanced analysis, but that's what happened, and they won. So that's why you tune into our show for that stuff.
That was actually a compliment to both of us, even though it didn't feel like it, but it was.
You have something to do, right? You got to go.
Listen, we had all sorts of Christmas miracles. RFK legislation went through somehow last minute. That comeback was crazy. Santa is loving us. We have been real nice this year. Loving us. Happy holidays, Logan.
Happy holidays, Bram. Appreciate you, buddy. And happy holidays to everybody who listens to this show.